Здравствуйте! В прошлый раз мы с вами посмотрели притяжательные местоимения, поговорили о том, как выражать время и так далее. Достаточно много материала было. So last time we looked at some possessive pronouns, talked about time expressions and things of that nature, plenty of different kinds of material, and there's even more of it coming to you today. First of all, let's go ahead and take another look at the dialogue that we have looked at last time in the beginning of the lesson. Another thing we're going to do is look at some of the other things expressing possession. We're going to look at expressing age, some more time phrases, and tons of counting examples based on the number that goes with the noun. You're going to use a different form of the noun. We've seen already 1 час, 2 часа, 5 часов. You see those same things with год, года, лет, доллар, доллара, долларов, etc. So, first of all, the dialogue. Take a look at it again. Здравствуйте, Татьяна Владимировна.
Добрый день, Дмитрий Ильич.
Татьяна Владимировна, я не помню, у вас есть дети?
Да, у меня есть один сын.
А сколько ему лет?
Ему уже 19 лет.
А, да?
Он студент колледжа. А у вас есть дети?
Да, 2 дочери.
А сколько им лет?
Старшая ходит в детский сад, ей 2 года, а младшая еще дома, ей только год.
Понятно. Я не знала, что у вас такие маленькие дети.
Да. Очень хорошо. А теперь давайте посмотрим этот диалог предложение за предложением. Now let's go ahead and take a look at it sentence by sentence. Take a look at the first bunch. Здравствуйте, Татьяна Владимировна. Hello, Tatiana, daughter of Vladimir. That is actually the way you would address somebody formally. It's like using a first and middle name. Maybe something like esteemed Tatiana. And she says, Добрый день, Дмитрий Ильич. Same idea, first and so-called patronymic name. I'll talk about it later, on how those are formed. Actually, I'll remind you of it. You already know it. Okay, so the next is Татьяна Владимировна. Take a look at the next bunch. Я не помню, у вас есть дети? Татьяна Владимировна, I don't remember. Do you have kids? Я не помню. I don't remember. Don't use that as an excuse for anything. Я не помню. Don't remember. У вас есть дети? Do you have children? У вас есть, do you have? Now you can put anything you want there. У вас есть дом? Do you have a house? У вас есть whatever. And then she answers. Да, у меня есть сын. Yes, I have a son. When you want to say you've got something, use that у меня есть. I have, and then whatever it is. Очень хорошо. Next question. А сколько ему лет? Literally, and how many to him years? That means, and how old is he? She answers, ему 19 лет. He's 19 years old. You've got to say лет, or год, года. We'll look at it later. Он учится в колледже. He studies at a college. А у вас есть дети? Or а у вас дети есть? And do you have kids? She asks. And I answer the following. Посмотрите, пожалуйста. Есть. Есть. That literally means exist. So, an equivalent of English, I do. 2 дочери. 2 daughters. And she asks, а сколько им лет? And how many to them years? That's how you'd ask, how old are they? Им is the only part we change. So, let's look at this phrase once again. А сколько им лет? Хорошо. And the answer is kind of backwards. Старшая дочь ходит в детский сад. Ей 2 года. The older daughter goes to the детский сад literally means children's garden. That's daycare, preschool. Хорошо? Not kindergarten, as the first grade in school, you know. Ей 2 года. To her, 2 years. That means she's 2 years old. Very bizarre structure. We'll look at it in better detail a little later. In the meantime, let's continue on to the last thing I had to say about it. А младшая еще дома. And the younger, meaning младшая дочь, younger daughter, еще дома, still at home. Ей только год. She is only, I said год, a year, meaning 1 год. She's only 1 year old. Хорошо. And Tanya goes on to say, я не знала, I did not know, что ваши дети еще такие маленькие, that your children are still so little, so small. Interesting phrase, complicated structure. So first of all, when you want to say, oh, is that so? You go into this, and then past tense. Я не знал is what a guy would say. Tanya said, я не знала. That's the feminine past tense. More of it later. That your kids, что ваши дети, still еще so little, такие маленькие. Очень хорошо. Так, теперь давайте с вами посмотрим этот диалог еще раз. Let's go ahead and take a look at this dialogue once again, so that you would reinforce it in your mind on how those simple phrases are used. Пожалуйста. Здравствуйте, Татьяна Владимировна.
Добрый день, Дмитрий Ильич.
Татьяна Владимировна, я не помню, у вас есть дети?
Да, у меня есть 1 сын.
А сколько ему лет?
Ему уже 19 лет.
Да?
Он студент колледжа. А у вас есть дети?
Да, 2 дочери.
А сколько им лет?
Старшая ходит в детский сад, ей 2 года, а младшая еще дома, ей только год.
Понятно. Я не знала, что у вас такие маленькие дети.
Да. Очень хорошо. So from the very beginning, this dialogue uses the first and patronymic name as a way of addressing somebody. That is how you address somebody if you're being pretty formal. That's the most polite way. I suspect that you remember that from your last semester. Do you by any chance recall Anna Petrovna and her husband, Ivan Ivanovich? That came about as a Ivan, son of Ivan. So Ivan Ivanovich. And just the same way Anna, daughter of Pyotr, became Petrovna. The same way we had Vladimir in Tatiana's patronymic name becoming Vladimirovna. Take a look and see how that works. We've got Vladimir. Go ahead and cut it off right there and add Avna. That will mean daughter of Vladimir. And then if it's a guy that you're talking to, like some Ivan, son of Vladimir, you'll have Ivan Vladimirovich. That Avich means son of. Pretty simple stuff. Unfortunately, in some cases it gets a little bit uglier. For example, if somebody's father's name is Alexei, ending in that ikratkaya, or maybe ending in mягкий знак, you will have to actually cut that ikratkaya off, and you will end up with the following. You'll have Alexeyevna, got rid of ikratkaya, and have Yevna now. Alexeyevna, daughter of Alexei, and then Alexeyevich, son of Alexei. So, Ivan Alexeyevich, or Anna Alexeyevna. Хорошо? Sometimes it gets even more bizarre. If the father's name is Ilya, which is not particularly common, but happens with me, for example, you will have the daughter's patronymic name as Ильинична. So, Natalia Ильинична. Natalia, daughter of Ilya, or the guy Vladimir Ilyich. Vladimir, son of Ilya, or in my case, Dmitry Ilyich. Очень хорошо. Так, let's go ahead and take a look at something else now. If you were to say that your name is, for example, Joseph or something like that, and your dad's name is John, so if you wanted to do it Russian style, you'd say that you're Joseph Johnovich or Mary Johnovna. Хорошо. You will need that later. I am going to ask you to write a paragraph where you mention your full name. Okay? Хорошо. Так, one more thing. We talked about family here. We will use a lot of family vocabulary. Here's the first batch we're gonna look at. Бабушка, grandmother. Дедушка, grandfather. Родители, parents. Мать, mother, same as mama, but more formal. Отец, father. Same as papa. Хорошо. Муж, husband. Жена, wife. Let's look at them once again and please read after me. Бабушка. Stress the ba, first syllable. Бабушка. I don't want to hear any babushkas ever in my life again. Бабушка. Дедушка. Once again. Дедушка. Родители. Родители. Мать. Отец. Муж. Же at the end becomes sh, so муж. Жена. Очень хорошо. Now let's take a look at some more, please. Ребенок is a child. The plural is very irregular. Like in English, you don't end up with childs, but children. In Russian, it's going from ребенок, 3-4, to дети, children. Дети, kids. Хорошо. Okay. You could have сын, a son, or дочь, daughter. Брат, brother. Сестра, sister. And then you could have a older son, younger daughter, older brother, etc. And those are right there in masculine. Старший, masculine for older. Младший, masculine for younger. Очень хорошо. Once again. Ребенок. Дети. Сын. Дочь. Брат. Сестра. Старший. Младший. Очень хорошо. Now let's go ahead and take a look at it in more context. For example, you could have an older brother, and that would be старший брат. Masculine брат requires старший. Старший брат. Хорошо. Or you could have a старшая сестра. Старшая сестра. Сестра feminine, so старшая. A я ending. Очень хорошо. Younger brother would be младший брат. Хорошо. Younger sister. Младшая сестра. Take a look at that one for me, please. Младшая сестра. Очень хорошо. Alright. Another thing that we dealt with was possession. When you've got something, you will say у меня есть. У меня есть. Literally, what you're saying is by me there is. By me exists. That's how you say I have. Don't try to break it down to у меня means I and есть means have. No, literally it means by me exists. Sounds ridiculous, but that's how it is. Alright, the only thing you're going to change when you want to say somebody else has it is the меня part. Okay. Alright, if you want to say I have and then put a particular noun there, it's very simple. Just put it there. Like I have new magazines. The one that you see there is у меня есть новые журналы. Очень хорошо. When you want to ask somebody, as I said, the only thing you need to replace is the меня part. So then when you ask the question, this is what you're gonna have. У вас есть and the noun. For example, часы. Do you have a watch? У вас есть часы. Хорошо? Exactly the same structure will be used for simply stating something. If you want to say, oh, you have a watch. You'd say, у вас есть часы. So the way we go from a question, rising intonation, to a statement is just that. У меня есть часы. У вас есть часы? У вас есть часы. Just the intonation. Очень хорошо. Так, that's what we use to ask a question either formally, у вас есть one person, or plural. If we want to make a casual question, you would say у тебя. So, у тебя есть часы? Or у тебя есть деньги? Do you have money? Хорошо? The у тебя part is different. Хорошо? Отлично. And the person could answer, да, у меня есть $5. Yes, I have the same у меня есть structure we've learned. $5. $5. Долларов. That's an interesting ending there. Хорошо. Or the answer could be есть $3. It's a shortened version of да, у меня есть $3. Yes, I have $3. Or simply, yeah, I do. $3. So, есть is how you'd answer it very briefly. Хорошо? If you want to say that you don't have something, you would say нет. If you want to go to a great deal of trouble and say no, I do not, you would say нет, у меня нет. A double нет there. Очень хорошо. Okay. Do you remember what we did with time? When we were counting something, we went through 3 forms. We had 1 час, then 2, 3, 4 часа, and then 5 all the way through 20 часов. Let's review that. 1 час, 1 hour, or 1 o'clock. Then 2 through 4, next form часа. 2, 3, 4 часа. Then at 5 things change. Take a look at that. Посмотрите, пожалуйста, 5 часов. 6 часов all the way through 12 часов, 12 hours, or 12 o'clock. Would go that way through 20. Хорошо. And it's going to be exactly the same way dealing with money. Okay? You will have one form for $1, $1. Then 2, 3, and 4, you will have 2, 3, 4 доллара. Хорошо? Take a look at $2 right there. The next one, we've got $2. $2, we change from $1 to $2. Хорошо? Okay? Then you could have $5. $5. Хорошо? Same concept, and it's going to be exactly the same way with counting the age, expressing the age. Here's what we did once we established that somebody had 2 daughters, or do you have a son, etc. Went to how old is he? Хорошо? Went to this next phrase that you're gonna see. Сколько времени is how we asked what time is it. Then if you want to say how old is somebody or how many years, you would use this next phrase, which is сколько лет. Хорошо? So think of this сколько лет as the backbone of this how old or how much time. And then what you're gonna do is just insert the right pronoun to say how old is he, how old is she. Хорошо? Right here what you see is сколько ему лет. Literally how old to him, how many to him years. Хорошо? That's how you say how old is he. That ему is the form of он that you need to use for age. When you then answer the question, you're gonna use it in the answer. Хорошо? Okay. If you want to say how old are they, you're gonna have сколько им лет. Previously you could have said сколько ей лет. How old is she? Хорошо. Use the same pronouns when you answer the questions. Хорошо? The previous question was сколько ему лет? How old is he? You could answer ему 10 лет. To him 10 years. Note that ему being used again. Not он 10 лет, but ему. For age we use those. It's so-called dative case, but we couldn't care less about the terms right now. Just want you to know for age you use the ему, ей, им. Хорошо. Okay. She's 2 years old. The next one is ей 2 года. Ей 2 года. Очень хорошо. If you want to say they are only 1 year old, both of them, right? You'd say им только год. Хорошо? So, ему to him, ей to her, им to them. Очень хорошо. Ну что ж, just like we dealt with money, we had $1, $2, $5. It's going to be the same way with years. Хорошо. You would have, for example, один год, 1 year. Хорошо? Then the next thing is going to be 2 года, and it'll persist through 3-4 года. Хорошо? Then at 5, you will have a totally of the wall form лет. Хорошо? So it's год, года, лет. Очень хорошо. Let's take a look at the whole list of those years. So 1 year, год. 2, 3, 4, 2 года, repeat after me, 2 года, 3 года, 4 года. And then completely off the wall we've got the лет form. Take a look. 5 лет, please repeat. 5 лет, 6 лет, 7 лет, 7 years, 8 лет, 9 лет, 10 лет, 11 лет, 11 years. Очень хорошо. Ну что ж, так, that was just a bit of grammar dealing with age. Let's go ahead and go through that once again. We've got the question, how old is somebody? The way you'd answer it is start with сколько. How old is he? Сколько ему лет? Then go ahead and start the answer with a ему. You'd say he's 5. Don't forget the лет. Ему 5 лет. Лет is the form we use for 5 through 20, right? Alright, what if you wanted to say he is 21? Ему 20, that's more than 20. What we do there is go back to the 1. Ему 21 год. Okay? If you want to say he is 23, you'd say ему 23. 2 through 4, we've got that second form, года. Ему 23 года. Please repeat that. Ему 23 года. Очень хорошо. Once you hit 25, you're gonna do the same thing that you did for 5 through 10 or 20. You will have лет again. So, he is 27, for example. You'd say ему 27 лет. If you're not too comfortable with the numbers, I would recommend that you go through them, try writing them out, sounding them out, so that you'd be able to recognize them. Because once we start counting money a little bit more, you'll see everything from 1 to 100, and probably even more. Хорошо. Okay. That was сколько ему лет. How old is he? Okay. If you want to ask how old is she, use ей. Again, this is just a review of what we did a minute ago, so you'd ask сколько ей лет. Хорошо? And in the answer, start out with the ей. You'd say ей, what if she's 1 year old? You'd say ей год. Хорошо? If she's 3, ей 3 года. Хорошо? If she's 11, ей 11, for 5 through 20, we've got that third form лет. Очень хорошо. Отлично. Ну что ж, а теперь давайте посмотрим кое-что другое. Давайте мы с вами посмотрим еще о русской культуре. Let's go ahead and look at some other things about Russian culture. I'm going to go back to those superstitions again. Okay. It may seem very strange, but sometimes you will see a Russian do this. Did I just pretend to spit across my left shoulder 3 times? Yes, I did. Ridiculous. To me, it's just as ridiculous to see an American do this. What are you doing? Knocking on wood? Why? Took me a while to figure out that that meant you either want something to stay exactly the same way, or you do not want it to happen, right? I think that's the deal. At least that's the deal with that triple pretend spitting across your left shoulder in Russian culture. Okay? Somebody says, сейчас все так хорошо идет, все в порядке, надеюсь, что так все и пойдет. Да? Everything is going so well, everything is just going great, I hope everything stays that way. And that person goes, that's like knocking on wood. Okay? Also, if somebody mentions something bad that could possibly happen, that person may do the same again. Okay? That's not for it to happen. Okay? Therefore, let's go back to that black cat crossing the road in front of you. One way you can avoid it, if you're a typical superstitious Russian, is by pretending to do that. Okay? That means it won't happen, right? You have just established it. It's like knocking on wood. Хорошо? Okay. Another thing that Russians do is, oh, by the way, they carry handkerchiefs. Kleenexes are still not that popular and not that common, so it's not uncommon to see a Russian with a handkerchief. And if you have that person pull out a handkerchief and there is a corner of it tied, that probably means that that person is trying to remind himself or herself not to forget to do something. I don't know what to compare it to, maybe writing down on your hand that you need to do something. It's interesting thing. Daytimers are not particularly common, so I guess use a hanky for that. Хорошо, что еще? I remember mentioning about even Communist Party member tending to cross himself or herself. That leads me to the next thing. Very often, if somebody is yawning, they will cover their mouth, right? The whole idea of it started probably in the Middle Ages. When you open your mouth, you give a chance for something bad to enter you or something like that, so you would close it, not to let anything enter. One of the most ridiculous things is if you are around older people that believe in God, for example, you will have that person sometimes cross your open mouth not to let anything bad enter it. You've got to have it happen to you to see how funny that feels. Хорошо. Okay. One more thing is a saying that I'd like to give you. Одна голова хорошо, а две лучше. Literally, one head is good and two is better. The idea meaning that one person thinking about something is good, two people is even better. I'll explain why that's relevant a little bit later. Let's go ahead and review what we have done today. We've done plenty of counting. We dealt with possession. У меня есть, у тебя есть, etc. We have dealt with age. Ему 5 лет, ей 10 лет. And we have used plenty of time, year, month, and also a specific hour time phrases. Хорошо. Since we're freshly out of pages to write, there's something else for you to do. Please write a paragraph about yourself. Make sure you say something like Меня зовут John Mikhailovich, and then your last name. Mention your age, mention that you're Americanец. Say where you live, go to school. Say something like У меня есть брат, I've got a brother, у меня есть сестра, etc. Хорошо? Ну что ж, это все. До свидания. Здравствуйте! Как дела? Как у вас дела? How are you? How are you doing? That's a formal or just a plural for everybody. как у вас дела? If I were to address one person, I'd say как у тебя дела? Being informal, friendly, etc. Those formal and informal greetings, the way to answer them properly, the way to deal with those situations is the focus of our lesson today. Let's see. Last time we dealt with expressing possession to a little bit. We were talking about family. У вас есть сын? Do you have a son? У меня есть две дочери. I have two daughters. Things like that. So, у меня есть, у вас есть. Also in our last lesson we dealt with counting things. Counted an awful lot of stuff. Money, time. We also used some numbers for expressing age. Things like мне and then 20 лет or something like that. Хорошо? We're going to continue on with that, with the just plain practical vocabulary and the way to use it. Let's take a look at the objectives of what we're going to do today. Greetings, goodbyes, informal, formal, personal, possessive pronouns, expressing possession in general, and also some imperatives, things like скажите, tell me, извините, excuse me. We've seen it, we're going to review it today. So first thing, we're going to look at a dialogue that deals with those informal greetings and also ways of saying goodbye. Just quick chit-chat stuff. Take a look at it.
О, Владимир, привет!
Привет.
Как дела?
Хорошо, как у тебя дела?
Спасибо тоже. Все нормально, все хорошо. А что ты делаешь?
Я читаю очень интересную книгу. Это книга об искусстве.
Понятно. А как дела у Андрея Новикова?
У Андрея Новикова дела хорошо, отлично.
Как его бабушка?
Его бабушка поживает плохо. Она сейчас старая и болеет.
О, это очень плохо, очень плохо. Ну, передай ей привет, пожалуйста.
Хорошо.
Ну, пока. Всего хорошего.
Ну что ж, в этом диалоге произошло следующее. Спросили, как у кого дела, как поживает такой-то, такой-то. So in this dialogue, what we did is a very simple hello, how are you doing? Fine, what you doing? Such and such. How is somebody? How is his grandmother? She's sick. So, concern for somebody, asking about somebody, and then goodbye. Let's go ahead and take it apart. Let's start with the first one. Привет! Привет! Hi, hi. Как дела? How are you doing? The full thing would be, since they're friends, как у тебя дела? Как у тебя дела? 3-4. Хорошо. Окей. А как у тебя дела? Тоже неплохо. Нормально. Stuff like that. Alright, not bad. Спасибо. Thanks. А что ты делаешь? And what are you doing? Я читаю интересную книгу. Интересная книга. Interesting book. Going into direct object form gets that ую and then u for the noun. I'm reading an interesting book. Хорошо. The next we've got А как дела у Андрея Новикова? And how is Andrei Novikov doing? So there he is. He's Novikov Andrei. But to say how are things with him literally, you have to put him in that genitive case. We saw a little bit of it. We've seen it in из России, из Далласа. Here is masculine Andrei Novikov going into у Андрея Новикова. You'll see quite a bit more of that. Okay, then we go on with очень хорошо, прекрасно, etc. And she's asking, how's the grandmother? And the answer to that is не очень хорошо. Not too good, not very good. Плохо. Bad. Она очень старая и болеет. She's very old and she is sick. She's not feeling well. So, старая, old versus новая, new for a thing, or старая, old versus молодая for a person. Okay, let's go to the next one. Передай ей привет. Literally pass to her a hello. Say hello to her. Say hi to her. And he says, хорошо, пока. Alright, bye. Пока, she says, всего хорошего, all the best, etc. Очень хорошо. Ну что ж, давайте посмотрим. So when you're asking somebody how someone's doing, you would use this как у тебя дела. Take a look at it. Как у тебя дела? How with you things, literally. Хорошо? That у тебя part is the one that's gonna change based on who you're asking about. If you're asking about that Андрей Новиков again, you'd say как у Андрея Новикова дела? Or как у Джона дела? Etc. How is John doing? Хорошо? Alright, if you're asking it formally, instead of у тебя, you're gonna use the next one, which is у вас. So, как у вас дела? How with you things, literally, again, sounds ridiculous. That is how you're saying, how are you doing? How are you? Как у вас дела? Formal, как у тебя дела? Informal. Okay, maybe you could be asking about somebody else relating to that person. For example, how is your family? Как ваша семья? Как ваша семья? Please repeat after me. Those are great things to learn to say properly. Как ваша семья? Хорошо? Or you could have the other one. Как ваш отец? Отец, father. So how is your father? How's your dad? Как ваш отец? Ваша семья, ваш отец. Based on the gender of the noun. Хорошо? And the next, how's your mom? We've got как твоя мама. Now we're choosing to use informal твоя. Of course you could say как ваша мама. That is up to you. So, как твоя мама. Хорошо? And the next we've got как твои родители. Parents. Родители. Твои родители. Как твои родители. Now, since родители is plural, we're using this твои, plural. Очень хорошо. Or you could have how are your kids. Как ваши дети. Most likely the person you're gonna ask that of will be somebody you have to be polite with, so ваши seems more appropriate. So, как ваши, plural, for ваш, дети. Очень хорошо. Or, how's your son? Как твой сын? Хорошо. Или дочь, or maybe the daughter. Посмотрите. Как ваша дочь? Очень хорошо. Or, how's your husband? Как ваш муж? Kind of sounds funny, doesn't it? Как ваш муж? Try it again. Как ваш муж? Хорошо. How's your wife? Как твоя жена? Informal твоя. Of course, if you're being formal, you'd say ваша. Очень хорошо. So far, we've been answering with things like хорошо, очень хорошо. Those are perfectly fine, but you've got some other options. So, first the basic хорошо, good. Somebody asks you, как у вас дела? How are you doing? You'd say хорошо, спасибо, fine, thanks. Or очень хорошо, very good, thank you. Хорошо. Or if you're not doing well, then you could have this one. You could say плохо, bad, poorly, плохо, очень плохо, very bad. Хорошо. All right. If it's not that bad, you could just say так себе. Так себе means so. All right. Так себе. Хорошо. Or a very typical Russian answer. There it is, right there. Ничего. Literally, that means nothing. That kind of reflects the Russian psyche. If nothing bad is happening, things must be all right. So, ничего, not bad, okay, all right. Хорошо. Ну что ж, you could get more adventurous and you could say something like очень неплохо, спасибо. Literally, very not bad, thanks. So, неплохо, not bad, is used so much together that it now has become one word. So, очень неплохо, pretty good, literally, very not bad. So, once again, очень неплохо, спасибо. Хорошо. Or if you're being really upbeat, you could say просто отлично. Отлично means excellent. That's like an A+, doing really great. So, simply excellent, just great. Просто отлично 3-4. Хорошо? If you're doing really poorly, you would say ужасно, horrible. Ужасно, awful. Просто ужасно, just awful. So, something like как ваш муж? How's your husband? Просто ужасно. He's doing awful. Хорошо. Alright, so we've got this entire range of starting from ужасно, really low down to the ground, horrible, up to прекрасно, отлично, great, wonderful, etc. Хорошо. Alright, one more thing we're going to deal with is imperatives. That sounds like something we haven't done, but in fact, we've been using that forever. When you say hello, when you say здравствуйте, you actually use an imperative. So, use it when you say hello. Здравствуйте. Literally, that means prosper, be well. Хорошо? So something like, how do you do it? Anyway. Okay, when you're asking somebody, tell me something, use this one. Скажите. Tell me. Okay, by the way, that T in parentheses means that that's what you're gonna use when you're being formal. If you're being informal, you would instead just use скажи, say, tell me. Хорошо? Okay, when you're asking for something, asking somebody to give you something, you would say дай. Like дай мне, give me, дай мне ручку. Хорошо? If you're being formal, you'd say дайте мне ручку. If you need to apologize, that's what you do. Извини. Excuse me. Sorry. Извините. More formal. Очень хорошо. And then if you truly need to apologize, you would say простите. Forgive me. Простите. Or just прости. If you're saying it to one person that you normally say ты. Informal, you too. Очень хорошо. Let's take a look at the complete list. Let's first go ahead and read them without the T, the way you'd say it informally. Подожди. Wait. Wait a little bit. Подождите, plural. Смотри. Look. Смотрите. Look. That's the plural. Входи. Входи. That means enter. Come in. Somebody knocks on the door, you'd say входите. Come on in. Sounds pretty ugly, doesn't it? Входите. Спроси. Ask. Спросите. Ask such and such, so and so. You know, узнай. Find out. Plural узнайте. And when you want to say let's do something, you would say давай. Like давай пойдем в кино. Let's go to the movies. Давай поговорим. Let's talk about something. Or the plural of it, давайте. Очень хорошо. This was pretty straightforward stuff. Most of it we've known. We've known about извини versus извините, здравствуй versus здравствуйте. Now we're going to go to some more heavy-duty grammar. We're going to look at the way of expressing possession. To say I've got something, you're going to у меня есть, right? You remember that, okay? We have seen it again in this little dialogue that we just looked at. We've seen it in this following phrase. А как дела у Андрея Новикова? This у Андрея Новикова, literally with Andrei Novikov, is in genitive case, okay? We've also seen this one. Как у тебя дела? How are you doing? But literally with you. У тебя. Хорошо? What kind of things do you have happening? That's what it is. Or the formal option right there. Как у вас дела? Очень хорошо. So when asking if somebody has something, we say у вас есть часы? This у вас. Do you? But literally with you exists a watch. Хорошо? Okay. Informal was у тебя есть деньги? The у тебя part is that with you. У тебя есть деньги? Do you have money? Очень хорошо. Alright, same is true when you want to say that somebody has something, like you've got new magazines. У меня есть новые журналы. I have. У меня есть. That's what we're focusing on. And very conveniently when you're talking about having something, what you have is a nominative case. Doesn't change. So you looked it up, new magazines is новые журналы, just stick у меня есть there, and you are saying, I've got new magazines. У меня есть новые журналы. Хорошо, right? You could say about another person, oh, you've got a watch. У вас есть часы. Хорошо? У вас. Or you could say about us. У нас есть $5. We've got $5. Классно. Deal. So, у нас. We have it. Хорошо? Alright, you could say that she has something. У нее. That means she has. Actually, the entire у нее есть would be she has. What she's got in our example here is телевизор. A television. She's got a TV. У нее есть телевизор. Хорошо? If he has something, we'd say у него есть. So, у него есть, he has, пальто. Once again, don't try to break down the has as a есть, and don't think of у него as he. This entire у него есть is what makes it into he has. Хорошо, you've got to remember the funny structure of у plus a person plus есть. Хорошо, alright, they've got an old apartment. У них is they have. У них есть старая квартира. In nominative case again. Очень хорошо. Alright, seems confusing, but it's actually not too bad. Let's take a look at the first half of our list of those possessive pronouns. Accusative case. Remember things like my name is such and such. Меня зовут Дмитрий Чацкис. When you go into the so-called genitive case, expressing possession, just add an u to it. And you end up with I have, most likely, like у меня есть. So from меня to у меня, piece of cake. Тебя, you direct object to у тебя, you have. Нас, us, to у нас, as in we have, у нас есть. Then вас, у вас. So basically we haven't really done anything new except for sticking that u in the beginning. It gets a little bit trickier with the third person. See what we've got there. So ее is her, right? Like я ее знаю, I know her. To say she's got something, you would say not у ее. That's kind of hard to say. Separate it out with an n, and you get у нее. So from ее, her, to by her, near her, she has. У нее есть. Хорошо? From его, him, to he has. У него. У него есть. Then from их, them, to say by them there is something. Literally, simply meaning they have. У них есть. They have. Очень хорошо. Так, ну что ж. Поразбирались мы с вами с этим. Теперь давайте посмотрим кое-что еще. So, I have just explained about how to say I have something. У меня есть ручка. I have a pen. Хорошо? So, у меня есть ручка. I have a pen. That есть becomes unnecessary once I start talking about that ручка in more detail. У меня есть. The есть is used only when you first establishing the fact that you've got it. Okay? So, у меня есть ручка. But then if you are to describe it, you would say, I've got a black pen. In English, you're still saying I've got, I have. In Russian, drop the есть. У меня черная ручка. У меня whatever else you want to say about the pen. Хорошо? Same way if you're asking somebody, do you have something? When you first establishing the possession, the fact whether somebody has or doesn't have something, you need to go ahead and use есть. So, do you have a house? У вас есть дом? У вас есть дом 3-4? Хорошо. And the person would answer, yeah, I've got one. Да, есть. Okay? But then, after I already established that you have a house, I'm gonna ask you, what kind of house do you have? Still have in English, but no есть in Russian. I know you've got it. I don't need the есть anymore. I would simply say, какой у вас дом? What kind? With you house. What kind of house do you have? Какой у вас дом? And answering that question, you won't use есть again. You would simply say, у меня, and then describe it. Большой, красивый, big, beautiful, белый, white, красный, red, я не знаю. Дом. Хорошо? Okay. Then, If you don't have it, as you remember, you would simply say нет, or нет, у меня нет. No, I don't have. Хорошо? Alright. When I'm asking about something, once again, if I am to ask, do you have a pen? I'm gonna say, у вас есть ручка? I'm establishing if you've got it. I'm kind of establishing the possession of the pen. It's your pen that I'm asking about. If, however, I'm asking about who's got my pen, I'm not gonna say есть. I will simply say, у кого? Who has? Моя ручка. Who has my pen? Есть is not necessary. It's not possession, it's my pen. I want to know where it is. It's just like saying, где моя ручка? Where is my pen? Okay? And the person that borrowed it from me is just gonna say, у меня. With me. I've got it. Won't say у меня есть, because if he used есть there, he would mean that he owns it. He borrowed it and feels like it's his now. Очень интересно. So, you will have an exercise in your homework that will ask you to first try to use the yes, try to use the right forms of those pronouns that will express the meaning of I have, you have, etc. And also is going to ask you to determine whether you need a есть or not. So, use the есть when you're first establishing the fact that you or somebody else has got something, and do not use the есть ever after. So, when you're describing something rather than saying you've got it, no есть. So, once again, у меня есть ручка, I've got the pen, getting sick of it. But if you're describing it, you'd say у меня черная ручка. I have a black pen. Хорошо. Ну что ж. Okay, I think we've dealt with that quite enough. Let's go ahead and look at some more fun stuff. Non-verbal communication, gestures and things like that. Remember how we express the approval? You shake somebody's hand, that means you're agreeing to it, right? Okay. One more thing that's not necessarily prevalent in the European part of Russia, but more going down to the Central Asian republics, the Caucasus, the more mountainous places, you're going to have people do that. If you want to agree to something, you extend your hand and somebody just, you know, claps it once, pats it once. Don't do this, just that. That means you're agreeing to it. Just like a handshake. Same deal. Хорошо? Okay, another way to express an approval of something was just, hey, to show your thumb, right? What you're saying, doing that is хорошо. Good. Классно. Cool. Хорошо. Классно. Здорово was another one. Хорошо? Ну что ж, when you want to express disapproval, the easiest thing to do would be to just make kind of a doubtful, a little bit of an ugly face and go, ah. So, shaking your head like that versus nodding it is how you, just like in American culture, express disapproval versus approval. Хорошо? One more thing to do if you want to say, not only do I think it's a bad idea, but you're gonna get in trouble for doing that. Namely from me. Among young people you may see that. Kind of like, I'm gonna beat you up if you do that. You know, you'll get in trouble. So showing a fist usually shows, I don't think that's a good idea, and you're gonna get it one day. Okay? A jocular way of agreeing to something, approving something that came from the military. And Russia's being pretty heavy with military people is saluting. You know, somebody tells you, could you do this for me? And kidding about it, you could say, хорошо. Yes, sir, right? It's sarcastic, but used quite a bit. Хорошо? That's when you agree. When you really strongly disagree, you could do this gesture. While in some other European countries, that means something that you wouldn't want to deal with, may have some nature that you don't want to bring up in everyday conversation. In Russia, that simply means, well, heck no. Here's this so-called figa, a fig. So, putting your thumb between your index and what are we gonna call that finger? Is the way of saying no, don't think so. You ain't gonna get that. Хорошо. Alright. One more thing we're gonna do today is look at yet another saying. Here it is. В семье ни без урода. Literally it says, in the family, it's not without an ugly person. There is an ugly one in every family. Kind of like there's a jerk in every crowd, or a black sheep in the family, black sheep in the herd. So once again, в семье ни без урода. You'll see it on a separate sheet. Хорошо. So, take a look at this school dialogue. That's going to be a review of some things, and that's going to introduce some other things to you, which we will look at in great detail next lesson.
Владимир, ты знаешь, что сейчас делают твои московские друзья?
А кто именно тебя интересует?
Ну, например, Саша Демидов. Он работает или учится?
Саша Демидов сейчас находится в Германии.
В Германии?
Да, в Германии. Его отец работает там в компании.
А Саша учится там?
Да, Саша учится там в институте.
Понятно. Так он уже не ученик, не школьник, а студент.
Да, он на первом курсе.
Понятно. А что делает Антон Бубенов?
Антон Бубенов сейчас учится в институте в Москве.
Ты знаешь, что он изучает?
Он изучает физику, математику, биологию, химию.
Очень интересно. А что делает такая очень красивая девочка в вашем классе? О, я забыла, как ее зовут?
Оля Архипова?
Да, Оля Архипова.
Она симпатичная, но не очень красивая, но не самая красивая девочка в классе. Я не знаю точно, что она сейчас делает.
Ну, учится?
Я думаю, она сейчас ходит в институт.
А в какой?
Мне кажется, она ходит в Московский государственный университет.
Понятно. А что она изучает?
Она изучает философию, искусство, русский, английский язык.
Она очень серьезная девочка. Я думаю, она хорошая студентка. Передай ей привет.
Хорошо.
Хорошо. Well, that looked like an awful lot of detail about some people that we don't necessarily care much about, but that gives us an idea of how people talk about somebody else, how somebody else is doing. We'll look at it in great detail next lesson. In the meantime, let's go ahead and take a look what we did today. Greetings, goodbyes, informal, formal, possession, pronouns, all of that stuff. Plus we dealt with some of the imperatives, скажите, tell me, дайте, etc. Хорошо. For the first time, you're gonna start doing exercises out of the book. Take a look at your homework. Exercises 9.1, A, B, and G, 3 of them. Pages 166, 167, and exercise 9.4 on page 169. And as always, practice the dialogue. I'm talking about the informal dialogue. Give it a try. Спасибо. До свидания.